Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Susan's Just Making It. I'm Susan and I'm here making stuff, messes, chaos, and making it through life. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're just stopping by for your first time, I'm glad you decided to stop in today. So, if you like my video, don't forget the thumbs up. Leave a comment letting me know what you think about today's video. And if you like the content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you'll know every time I upload new content. As you can tell from the title today, I'm going to be tackling a more serious topic. I'm going to be tackling the topic of addiction and how it affects loved ones. I've fortunately never battled with addiction myself, but I have been close to others that have been either recovering from addiction or in active addiction. So I thought I would go ahead and do the video for what it's worth. Whether you are an addict yourself and would like to maybe have a perspective into what it's like for the loved ones that are close to you, or if you do have a loved one that is battling addiction and maybe there's some information or insight that you can get some comfort, information, fellowship, whatever it is that you can get out of this video, I just thought that I would go ahead and do this video and share it. I do want to start off by saying that this was a requested video after I did my video on mental health and wellness early in my YouTube journey. I had someone reach out to me and ask me if I would consider doing one on addiction. Because they know that I have some experience dealing with people that are battling addiction, and they thought that it was a valuable message that I could share with others. And I really put it off for a while because it is a sensitive subject and it's not really comfortable for me to discuss my personal views on it. But I do feel that sometimes we have to tackle the more difficult subject matter because sweeping under the rug is not doing anybody any good. Sometimes we need to get things out in the open, even if they are uncomfortable. So, like I said, this I've been putting off for a couple months, and I decided, well, it's time. I do want to say that I'm just looking at some notes. I don't want to leave anything out that I want to touch on today. I want to put a disclaimer out there that I am not a mental health professional. I have nothing to do with addiction counseling or anything of that nature. I am not a professional in any way, shape, or form as far as this subject matter is concerned. I'm only speaking from my own personal experience and opinions and just knowledge that I've picked up along the way. So with that being said, take it for what it's worth. Take what you want, leave the rest. I don't have all the answers. I'm just sharing what I have to share. So I did look up a couple resources before starting the video. A couple things I do want to share with you is that I picked up a couple books along the way. And I want to say, first off, before I get into the books, a lot of people would say, oh, well, what experience do you have with addiction, or where do you get your where is your jumping off point? I do want to start off by saying at the age of 24 I married a recovering alcoholic, and I did go to AA with my husband. I went to Al-Anon meetings. I went to Codependent Anonymous meetings, so I do know a little bit about the dynamics of addiction from that. And I also picked up a lot of reading material along the way. Now, my husband was already in recovery when I met him and married him, and the reason the marriage didn't work out had nothing to do with the he was like I said, a recovering alcoholic. It had nothing to do with his alcoholism. He was already in recovery and going to AA and working the 12 steps. It was other things in the relationship. The alcoholism didn't have anything to do with the relationship not working out. But so that's how I got introduced to a lot of the dynamics of addiction and alcoholism. At the age of approximately 35, I got into a relationship with someone who is an addict in active addiction. And that relationship lasted for just short of 15 years until I got to the point that I decided I just can't do this anymore. I do not hate this individual. I still have great love for this person. He is not a bad person at all. It just was consuming too much of my life to continue that. And my father was also suffered from alcoholism, and I grew up with that my entire life. And he was not a fall down drunk. He was not abusive or anything like that. It's just that he drank every day, and in the end of his life, it really caught up with him, health problems and so forth. But that's just you know, where I'm jumping off from, like my experience with dealing with addiction and alcoholism. This applies to alcoholism and addiction, but I'm going to refer more in the term addict just because that's been my recent experience, but it does apply to both alcoholism and addiction. So jumping back to a couple books, I picked these up years ago when I first was dealing with the whole dynamics of addiction and alcoholism, and they helped me a lot, and I really need to sit down and read them again because it's been a long time since I read them. But there's the book Codependent No More by Beattie, and I did look this up, and it is available on Amazon, and I will link that down below in case you're interested in picking up this book to read. And it says how to stop controlling others and start caring for yourself. A lot of people that are dealing with someone who's in some type of addiction, you find that you are trying to control a lot of behaviors and a lot of what's going on around you to try to understand it, and because there's so much frustration and so forth involved. And basically this book kind of breaks things down, and it helps you take the focus off worrying about what the addict and what they're doing to what you need to do for yourself. So that's one. And then she put out another book, Beyond Codependency and Getting Better All the Time, which is just a follow-up to the original book. This I could not find on Amazon, but you may be able to find it at a library or another online bookstore or a brick and mortar bookstore. But these are the two books that I read early on dealing with this, and they may help you out there because, like I said, it takes the focus off focusing on the addict to focusing on what you need to do as someone close to the addict. So I'm going to link the one book, and I do recommend these. Like I said, it's been years since I read them, but I remember getting a lot out of them. Also, I looked up, I'm not familiar with what support groups there are for people dealing with people who are in addiction, but for alcoholics, a lot of you may be aware that there's Al-Anon meetings. I'm not sure like how readily they're available right now because of the whole COVID thing and people getting back into the swing of things being somewhat normal. So you can always do a search online to see if you can find a local Al-Anon group. They're usually held at churches in the evenings for friends and family, but I'm not sure how that's working right now because of COVID, so I didn't really look up a lot of information on that, but you can always do an internet search. However, I did find it's called I'm not sure like how they pronounce the acronym, but it's SAMHSA National Helpline. And I will link the website down below that has a lot of information that you can find, and as well as their phone number, their hotline number. And it's confidential, it's free, it's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, whether it's a holiday, a weekend, after regular business hours, someone is always available. And they have services available in English and Spanish. It has resources for individuals and family members dealing with physical and or substance abuse disorders. They provide referrals for local treatment facilities, support groups, and community-based organizations. So I found this website, and like I said, I'll link the information because there was a wealth of information, and anybody who's either trying to help someone and get into treatment, or they're trying to find support services for themselves, I think it would be a really good place to start. So I will put all that information down below. I got sidetracked. I had a thought. Oh, I do want to apologize in advance if this tends to be a longer video, because there's just a lot of stuff I want to cover. So bear with me. I know some people probably won't stick to the end, either because it is long, or maybe some of the things I talk about may hit a nerve or be more sensitive. So I don't expect to have really long view times on this. It's something for a particular audience, so hopefully someone out there will stick with it, because there's something in here that they can get something from. So like I mentioned, this was a requested video, and I did put it off because it's sensitive and uncomfortable, but it is what it is. And like I mentioned, it's just from my personal experience. I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form. So with that being said, I want to jump into like what I have to say about the whole thing. It's very difficult dealing with a loved one that is in active addiction. First of all, sometimes the addict and the loved one have very different viewpoints on addiction. An addict usually does not think that other people are affected by their addiction. The popular opinion is that other people aren't affected because they're only hurting themselves. And if you are close to someone who is dealing with addiction, you know that is 100% not true. When someone is in addiction or alcoholism, it affects everyone around them that they come into contact with, and that's why they call it a family disease. It is not isolated to the person that's using, by no means whatsoever. And a lot of people that are in addiction are blind to that fact. They don't understand why people are getting frustrated with them. They don't understand why people are pulling away and all of that stuff. In a way, you can't blame them, because the addiction takes over so much and is so all-consuming. But you have to understand, they do not understand that it affects other people. They think they're only hurting themselves. It's not the case. And with that being said, if you're dealing with somebody who's in addiction, and I know that a lot of people feel take on more than they really have. I don't know how I want to say this. They take on more than what's theirs to carry a lot of times when you're dealing with someone in addiction. And I do want to say, it is perfectly okay to say, you know, this is really affecting me and I need to get help. It's okay to reach out and seek out a support group. Try to find books to read, to try to do what you need to for yourself, because it's not only all about the addict. If you're close to them, you need to address that as well. It's not just about the addict, it's about everybody around them. You know, once the addict gets into treatment, it's not the next day everything's perfect. It's not. It's a whole healing process that takes a lot of time. And don't think that just because the addict, you know, gets into rehab, gets clean, does what they have to do, that it's all fine. No. Damage has been done to the people close to them, and you need to address that and do what is necessary to heal and take care of yourself as a result of basically the trauma that you endure being in this situation along with the other person. So let's see. Oh, I'm just trying to make sure I follow the things I want to mention. Okay, so everyone thinks that the whole thing about dealing with an addict is, oh, if I can just get them into rehab and get them into treatment and everything will be fine. Okay, that's a whole obstacle in itself. Okay, first of all, an addict is not going to go to rehab or do something about their addiction until they decide to do it. It is not a matter of that they don't love you, and that's why they're not going to rehab. It's not a matter of you not loving them enough, okay? You can love somebody all you want, but if they're not ready to change, they're not going to change. You're not going to love them into going to rehab or getting better. And on the same token, they can love you with all their heart and truly, genuinely have all the love in the world for you, but until they're ready, they're not going to do it. You know, you can beg, you can plead, you can bargain, you can compromise, but they're not going to do it till they're ready. Plain and simple. You cannot make somebody change until they're willing to change. And that goes on to the next thing. First of all, for an addict or an alcoholic to get help, first of all, they have to admit that they have a problem. And a lot of them don't think they have a problem. And you may think that that's, what do you mean? They don't. Generally, some of them do not think they have a problem. There are functioning addicts and alcoholics. They feel that they don't have a problem because they still go to work, that they're not abusing their family physically, that they still keep up with basic hygiene, that they still have a home to live in and food to eat. They don't think they have a problem. They're not going to think they have a problem and probably until they hit their bottom. And with that being said, a lot of people that are in relationships or family members of addicts, we're pretty much the ones preventing them from hitting their bottom because we enable them more than we realize. Okay, when my kids were growing up, I nagged a lot, but some things I just sat back and I let natural consequences teach them lessons. I mean, within reason, made sure they were safe. But sometimes you got to let people learn on their own. And if you are making sure that that person has a clean, safe place to live, and you're the one making sure that food is in their stomach, and you're the one sometimes even giving them money for drugs or alcohol, or you're the one that's covering for them and making excuses, and if you're the one allowing abusive behaviors, and when I say abusive, it doesn't need to be somebody physically harming you, the manipulation, the lying, all of that stuff, if you're allowing it and making excuses for it, you're enabling them. You're preventing them from hitting their bottom. You're not making them face the fact that they have a problem, because life is still comfortable for them. I don't have a problem, everything's fine. You know, it's not fine. When you're enabling them, you're making life too easy for them. And I know that's hard to say. You're thinking, oh, but I just love them. Yeah, you love them, but it's like the tough love thing. Sometimes you need to let them fall and let life be uncomfortable and let it smack them in the face. Then maybe they'll realize it is a problem. Okay, so just trying to look at my notes real quick. Like I said, the first thing is they have to be aware that they have a problem. Until they realize it's a problem, there's no reason for them to go to rehab. Everything's fine in their eyes. So and I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, some of the things I'm saying are harsh, like I have no compassion for people that are alcoholics. Or that's not the case at all. I really have a lot of compassion for people that deal with these issues, because I mean, no one chooses that. I'm just talking from a person that has dealt with people in addiction, and I think when you're dealing with people that are in especially active addiction, everything becomes about them, and when you're really close to that person, you start to lose yourself. You're so consumed with, are they safe, are they eating, how much they're using, how it's affecting their health, people finding out that your whole life is consumed with that, and you forget that you're still a person too, and you need to take the time to think about how that's affecting you and do what you need to take care of for yourself. Doesn't mean turning your back on the addict. It doesn't mean that you go to the other extreme, but you're a person too. Don't become so consumed in their behaviors and their needs that you neglect yourself, because things just snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I know it's really hard when you're in it, and I'm speaking from experience because there were a lot of years that I was the person that was consumed and always worrying about what was going on with that other person. And it's like, it's almost like you become a non-person because it consumes so much of you, and that's not yours to carry, you know. So let's see, oh, my glasses, so that's how big. And another thing with like getting someone to admit they have a problem, they have to admit it, and then they have to be willing to do something about it. Even some of them might get to the point of admitting they have a problem, but they're not quite ready to do something about it yet. And you gotta think that a lot of people, their addiction is a crutch. It brings them something, you know, an escape, to feel better, whatever it is, that the reason they started the addiction and continue the addiction, there's something in that for them. And they may even come to the realization that it's a problem, but they still might not be ready to change that. So, and not only that, there's different steps once somebody decides that they want to get clean. It's not just, oh my gosh, I want to get clean, I'm just going to start to go to AA, or I'm going to start to go to NA. It doesn't work that way. Now, the most recent experience I had with dealing with this, I will admit, is an opioid addiction. And I'm going to kind of speak more from that. It does apply to addiction to all kinds of substances, but I'm just going to use that as a reference because that's what's most familiar to me. First of all, so if that person admits they have a problem, the person admits that they want to get help, there's a process involved. First of all, once somebody is so dependent on a chemical substance, you can't just one day say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, and just quit cold turkey. Somebody who's a diehard alcoholic, somebody who is an addict, they can't just quit. In some cases, they will die. Okay? Once your body has become so dependent on that substance, even if you're a caffeine addict, you drink your coffee or whatever every day, you know yourself, if you don't drink coffee for a couple of days, you have headaches, you have withdrawals, you're jittery, you're jumpy, you're snappy. That's just minor in comparison to somebody who has been using a substance for a long period of time. Your body is used to that. You can't just stop giving your body that. So the first step is for this person to go into detox, first of all, to get their body basically flushed out, and to have medical personnel on hand to monitor that, because it is very, very serious. And I'm not being over dramatic. People can die if they just stop using whatever it is that they're using. It's not, oh, I'll just keep them home and I'll, you know, put cold rags on their head. No, they need to be in some type of facility with medical personnel that can monitor the detox. Then the next thing is, a lot of times they're going to have to be inpatient depending on how deep into their addiction they are. And that's where they're getting intense treatment. Like I said, there would be medical professionals, oftentimes counselors, and support groups, and they're around peers dealing with the same thing. So inpatient, and I think it depends on like insurance, unfortunately, your own schedule, how bad the problem is and stuff like that, like the period of time. And different professionals have different opinions on how long someone should be inpatient. So with that being said, even they go through in the detox, they go into an inpatient setting. You don't just go home and everything's roses after that either. A lot of times people have to continue outpatient treatment, where they go to support groups, they check in say once a week or whatever with the facility, whatever facility they're using. So, and that can go on for years, even depending on the individual and so forth. So you got your detox, you got your inpatient, your outpatient. Then after that, you need to have a support group and a support in place. Your support groups, your NA, your AA, sponsors, family going to the meetings that they need to go to and getting their support, so that it's not just the addict. It's like their close circle has to be a part of that too, to offer the support. A lot of times that people relapse is because they feel like they're doing it on their own and they're not getting the support they need. And I'm not saying to be like down their throat constantly, but to be there if they need you, and to like kind of push and encourage without being overbearing about it, because at the end of the day it is their journey. So you have to have those supports in place. And another thing is, when somebody decides to get clean and they put all these steps in place, you have to be realistic that there's a good chance they're going to relapse. And my personal opinion is the worst thing to do is go overboard with that, like, oh, here we go again, we're back to the beginning. Okay, it is frustrating, but it's just, I don't know how I want to say this, it's not the end of it. It's a stumbling block that you have to be supportive to kind of get that person back on the horse. It's not the end of the whole journey. It's just, okay, you relapsed, maybe look into why that happened. Is there certain stressors? Is there not enough support? Maybe it's just because they're not quite ready for the help after all. But just kind of hang back and kind of see what the situation is, and just be there to offer the support needed. Sometimes people relapse and they're just done, they're just not ready to quit, and other times it's just a stumbling block and they have to be kind of redirected and you know, get back on the get back in the swing of things, I guess. So just understand that even if your loved one does decide to get clean, there is a really high chance that there will be a relapse at some point. So with that being said, somebody who has been an addict and they do decide to change their life and get clean and get treatment and so forth, it's not just, okay, they went through all these steps, they have a support group, and there's some artificial time limit. Okay, they'll do all this and then they'll go to the support groups and the outpatient for a year and then that's it. There's a saying, once an addict, always an addict. There's a reason for that. This person, especially if they've been in addiction for a long time, it has become part of their life. It's part of their routine. It is normal to them after a certain period of time. So I was going to say in most, but I would dare to say in all cases when someone has dealt with addiction, it is a lifelong process. You are always working to maintain your sobriety. I'm sure, like I said, I've never been in addiction, so I can't speak personally. I just, from people I've talked to, people I've been close to that have dealt with it, the temptation is always there. Like I said, there's an initial reason that people start using. That's become their coping mechanism. So when they get stressed, it's going to be really hard for them to stay clean. They're going to need more support and things like that. So it's not just there's some artificial time limit. Usually when someone's been using, they decide to get clean, it is a lifelong process for the rest of their life to stay clean and maintain their sobriety. I had a thought and it kind of out of my mind. That's why I have so much stuff written down, it just escaped me. So yeah, it is a lifelong thing. And I think people that, even if they don't maintain their sobriety, I think that at least the effort to try and to make that decision really needs to be commended, because it is scary to somebody to change something like that in their life. And my sons worked with a kid, I say kid, a young adult their age, that was an addict, and he was celebrating, I think, his 3rd year of sobriety, and he shared with my one son that, you know, nobody really acknowledged that in his family or people close to him, and my son said that he wanted to do something to recognize that. So we bought him a cake and stuff and took it to him, and it really made him feel good that somebody remembered and recognized it. And he was practically in tears because he had shared that none of his family or anybody close to him recognized his milestone. And I was proud of my son that he wanted to do that, because it is a lot of work and a lot of effort for someone to maintain their sobriety, and I think that does need to be recognized. It gives them just that one more push that they're doing the right thing and that someone cares. So if you do have somebody who's making steps to change their life, try to recognize that and try to encourage it and let them know that it's important. Don't just assume that they understand that they're doing the right thing and that you appreciate it. You need to kind of remind them, because they need that encouragement. It's to us, you think once they get on that track and stuff, it's just ho hum, back to normal, it's expected, they're gonna do. They need to know. Yeah, it really needs to be recognized, because it's not an easy task whatsoever. So with that being said too, like, a lot of people will say, okay, I went to detox, I went to inpatient, I went to outpatient, I don't need to go to these meetings, I know what I have to do, and my family's supporting me. No, you need to practice these things. Like in AA, they have the 12 steps. There's a reason they have the 12 steps, because if you're not doing things to address your addiction or your alcoholism on a regular basis, you've heard the term dry drunk. That's what they're talking about. You're not drinking anymore, or you're not using anymore, but you're still doing the same behaviors that you did when you were in an active addiction. And it's not just a matter of you stop using the substance. A lot of behaviors have to change too. Excuse me. A lot of the behaviors have to change. Otherwise, you're only addressing half of the issue. And one thing I did forget to say is, when you're dealing with someone who's deciding to get treatment, or you're encouraging them, or a lot of times we're racking our brain trying to fix things. We can't fix them. They have to kind of decide to fix themselves. But there's a lot of people that are under the misconception, oh, if we just move to a new town or a new neighborhood or a new state or whatever, and get them away from the people they're hanging out with and the people they're buying things from, you know, their dealers and stuff. I just want to let you know, hard slap in the face, if you're not already aware of it, which you probably are, but you might be in denial. You can take somebody as far away as you want. If they want to use, they're going to find a way to get what they're using. So if that thought is even in your mind, that if you just get them into a different environment, it's going to be okay, don't disappoint yourself. If someone wants to use, they're going to find a way. It's like, it may seem a little bit humorous saying this, but it's almost like people that are in addictions, you can take them anywhere. They're going to find each other. They're going to find each other. They're going to find somebody who knows a dealer. They're going to find a dealer. They're going to find what they're looking for. So don't fool yourself thinking if you take somebody into a different environment, it's going to be okay, because it's not. Do not fool yourself. If they want to use, they're going to find it. Plain and simple. Just like the alcoholic. You think you pour out the liquor, you pour out the beer, you hide it. They're going to, even if they don't go to have any way to get to the stores, they're going to find a way to get it. You've heard these off-the-wall things of people drinking rubbing alcohol or cough syrup, or they're gonna find it. So I'm just trying to save you some grief if you think that that's the cure to all this, because it's not. So please do not think that. You know, you're just setting yourself up to be disappointed. They'll find it. That's why it's called an addiction. You know, it's all consuming to them. Another thing, now I want to start touching on like getting away from like the recovery aspect and stuff, just some of the things that you deal with when you're dealing with an alcohol or an addict. And my only point in saying these things is that if you are dealing with somebody in this situation, I don't want you to think that this is just isolated to your situation. This is stuff that happens pretty much across the board with anybody who's close to someone in addiction. First of all, there's a lot of lying and lack of trust involved. Me personally, when I'm dealing with somebody who's in an addiction, I assume that about 99% of what they say is going to be a lie. They're going to, if you're codependent and you're trying to get somebody to look at their problem, you're going to be the mother hen, no matter whether you're a daughter, sister. I'm just speaking from a female point of view because I'm a female, but it could be male or female. But whether you're a parent, a child, a sibling, a friend, a significant other, whatever it is, you're going to become a mother hen basically if you care about this person. You're going to be looking for signs of them using. You're going to be looking for the substance or paraphernalia. You're going to be hawking everywhere they go, everyone they talk to. You're going to be confronting them whether they used or not, whether they're high or not, or drunk. You're just going to be on this person. You know, and it's going to consume a lot of your life, being this mother hen on them. And of course, their reaction is going to be to lie. No, I didn't use today. No, I didn't talk to that person. No, I didn't go there. They're going to tell you whatever you want to hear, so you are off their ass and they can continue to do what they want to do. Or, I don't want to say want to do, what they do. Okay? So that's another thing. Don't break your own heart. Don't disappoint yourself. Don't always, I don't know how to say this. There is no way to sugarcoat it. I'm trying to think of a nicer way to say it, but there's not really any way to sugarcoat it. Assume that most of what they say is a lie. Period. Oh, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't. Oh, but they're really not by nature a dishonest person. Throw all that out the window. Assume most of what they say is going to be a lie, because they are going to do whatever it takes to maintain their addiction, what they're doing. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to say whatever it takes to for their agenda. You know, they're going to tell you, oh, I didn't take that money. Oh, I don't. Just I know it's really harsh, and it sounds really harsh, and if there's any people in addiction watching this, I was going to say I apologize, but really I don't, because it needs to be heard. Assume that most of everything's going to be a lie, because it probably is. Okay? Another thing was stealing. Drug and alcohol habits are pretty expensive. Okay? Even if somebody is still able to function and maintain legitimate employment, more than likely, if they're really in their addiction, they're not going to be able to afford it, even if they're working. Okay? So don't be surprised when money and things come up missing and other family members are kind of saying, oh, do you think so-and-so would? Probably. You know, so along with the lying, do not be surprised if things and money come up missing, because addictions take money. And if you're an addict, your body craves it, your mind craves it. It is part of who you've become. You're going to do whatever it takes to get that. And yes, you will rob your own mother. A lot of what I'm talking about, like I said, a lot of people may have tuned out already, because some of what I'm saying is hard to hear. But it's the way it is, and that's why I put off doing this video, because it's hard to talk about these things, and people sometimes don't want to hear it. Stuff's going to come up missing. Period. And it's a terrible way to live, that you have to lock everything up, give it to another family member to hold on to, and things like that. But it's part of the big picture. Another thing, besides the stealing and lying, a lot of it goes hand in hand, is that the addict, you're going to play a lot of this guilt and blame game. you know, an addict usually is not going to want to take a look at themselves, because a lot of times they don't even like themselves, and that's part of the reason that they have an addiction. But it's not going to be their fault. They wouldn't use if you didn't nag. They wouldn't use if this, that, and the other. Blame, blame, blame. And that's where it's very difficult, because a lot of people that deal with people in addiction start to develop self-esteem issues, because you hear a lot of that blame game stuff, and then you start to question, especially I think if you're a parent that has a child that's addicted, and thank God that I don't have a child that's addicted, but I think parents absorb a lot of what their kids are going through. So I think a lot of parents that have children that are in addiction, the kids do tend to blame the parents a lot, because it's a convenient scapegoat for them, and the parents are right there to absorb it all. So if you're one of the people that I'm talking about, like you have a loved one in addiction, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of blame and stuff like that. And like I said, if you're close to somebody, a lot of guilt goes in there. You think, oh, I'm not supportive enough, or if I did this more, if I tried harder, this, that, and the other. It's neither here nor there. That has nothing to do with any of this. It's just one of the dynamics. They're going to blame you because they're not going to be accountable for their own behavior, and it's easier to blame it on somebody else, even though it's not the case. And you're going to feel guilty if you're close to somebody, because usually when we love someone, we do take on a lot of guilt, whether it's ours to carry or not. So that is part of what you're going to deal with, unfortunately. It's just part of the whole addiction thing. Another thing that you have to deal with when you're dealing with somebody with addiction is there's a lot of concerns for health and safety for the addict and the people close to them. First, I'm going to talk about the people close to them, just because it's a little bit shorter in my mind to touch on. Obviously, if you're the loved one, there are safety issues, especially if the addict becomes violent when they're using, like they say a miserable drunk. Men or women, both, that get drunk and then they come home and abuse their partner, their kids, and other family members, parents, whoever. So you got the physical aggression that plays into the safety. Another thing is, you don't know what environments they're going into and the people that they're keeping company with when they're going out to buy, or who they hang out with to get high with, or to drink with, or whatever. So there's a whole dynamic there. The element of people that they're dealing with, and stuff like that, and how much of that is being brought into the home. Maybe not like physically, but like the whole I don't know what I want to use. The whole not that they're bringing these kind of people into your home, but the whole like atmosphere of it, the whole feeling of it, the whole vibe of it, I guess you'd say, a lot of times gets brought into the home or the environment, because a lot of people like absorb the energy of the company they keep. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So it kind of carries over into the home life, or that type of thing. So yeah, because you don't know like what they're doing when they're out doing what they do. So there's that part of it. It probably is way more involved than that, but that's just a brief touching on that. For me, when I talk about health and safety, I'm talking more about the addict themselves, their health and safety. First of all, it goes, like I said, to safety. Okay, where are they going to get what they use? It's probably not the safest neighborhoods and things like that. Second of all, the people they deal with. A lot of times, we already talked about the money part of it. If they don't have the money to buy, and they're owing their dealers or whatever, how much of a tab do you think they're running up before someone comes looking to collect? So it's not only the people they're dealing with, but what else is going on involved with that. Another thing is when people are using, and I'm just going to go back to the opioid, and particularly people that that use IV drug use. Are they sharing their paraphernalia? Are they keeping it clean and sanitized? Things like that. Is it new works? So like that. And let's be realistic. Probably not. Okay? Some people are probably more vigilant than others, but assume that it's not. Just saying. So that goes into like their physical health. Another thing, dealing with people who use IV drugs. You can only put a needle in your vein so many times before you're basically blowing a vein. So what happens, God forbid something happen and they need an IV or something like that. And unfortunately, I'm speaking somewhat of personal experience being close to me. You've blown your veins, you need medical treatment. It's usually very difficult to find a vein that can be used for an IV or whatever. So, I mean, even if you stop using, yeah, over time, you know, your body heals and stuff. But, I mean, it goes beyond just the addiction itself. I mean, it's like all this connected stuff that goes into it where you're compromising your health and safety. And like I said, anyone who decides to get treatment should be commended, but unfortunately, if you've done so much damage to your body, even after you stop using, it takes a long time for your body to start bouncing back and repairing itself. So, and then let's not talk about things like if you're an IV user, you know, hepatitis, AIDS, you know, things like that. And bouncing back to the whole thing of like the finances and getting money for your addiction. This is another thing. Some people might just click right off the video now, but if you're not working and your family has finally gotten up the courage to cut you off, where are you getting that money? You know, you've got, normally I would say women, but it's women and men selling their bodies to make the money to feed their addiction. Robbing people, you know, just, I mean, we could go on for a long time talking about some of the behaviors that people resort to feed an addiction, and each one of them brings a whole nother set of issues to the table, and I don't want to go on with this video for like 10 hours talking about everything, but yeah, health and safety is like a big thing with people that are in addiction. People are out there doing very risky and unsafe behaviors in a lot of ways that I just don't have enough time to go into detail about, and a lot of people are already aware of where I'm going with that and stuff like that. Yeah, so and another thing too is if you're living with or close to somebody who has an addiction, whether alcohol or drugs, please make sure that you're aware of what you need to do in an emergency. If somebody is suffering from alcohol poisoning or has OD'd, please make sure that you have emergency contact numbers. If it's somebody using opioids, make sure that you have Narcan on hand and that you know how to use it. I'm not sure about every community in the United States, but most communities, if you reach out to like facilities that deal with drug addiction and rehab and stuff, a lot of times there's community places that you can get it hopefully for free, most places for free, that you can get Narcan, and in there sometimes they have classes teaching you how to use it. So if you do have a loved one that suffers from alcoholism or addiction, please make sure that you know what to do in an emergency. Have those phone numbers and kind of educate yourself on what you need to do, because sad as it is, you may have to save a life someday, and God forbid, but please try to make sure you know what to do if that situation arises. Touching on some of the other things, like going back to the whole thing with abuse, okay, a lot of families and friendships where somebody is in addiction, there is a huge possibility of there being abuse. I already kind of touched on with physical abuse. Sometimes when people are using, they become abusive. Not only that, if people are not able to feed their addiction and they're withdrawing, or they have a craving, they can become very abusive. So there's a high risk of physical abuse when you're dealing with somebody who's in addiction. And not only that, but emotional and mental abuse is very much there, going back to the whole blame game and the guilt, and a lot of lying and manipulation and stuff like that. It does take a huge mental and emotional toll. And with it going back to with it being a family disease, I'm always trying to think of tactful ways to put it, but some of this, there's just not a tactful way to say it. If you are dealing with somebody in addiction and there are children involved, please, please, please realize that a lot of damage is being done to children that are a witness to this type of behavior. If they're around it long enough, they start to think that it's normal, that when they have friends that actually do have a normal, whatever that is, a normal family, they have a hard time understanding, because it's so different from the home life that they have. They think it's normal for mom or dad or aunt or uncle or grandma, whoever, to come in with the behaviors of, you know, being drunk or high, and the yelling and the money problems. And it's really unfortunate that children live in that. So please just try to understand that if you have kids close to the situation, it's really, really causing a lot of damage to these children. And aside from the potential for physical abuse and then the mental and emotional, there's a huge, huge safety concern. Okay, first of all, if a child is left in the care of someone who is under the influence, that's a huge safety concern. A lot of people, when they're under the influence, they can't even manage to keep themselves safe, let alone a child. So keep that in mind if you're leaving your child with someone who uses a substance. Another thing is, another safety concern is when people are under the influence, they're not as mindful as most normal people would be. Do you really want to think of what would happen if your child got a hold of hard liquor, or you know, a drug of some sort? And how are you going to explain that when your child has OD'd? How'd they get it, you know, and things like that? And I mean, it's really difficult to talk about. I mean, it's something you really need to think about, you know. And I don't advocate this by any means, but if your addiction is that bad, or you're in a relationship with somebody whose addiction is that bad, you really, really, really need to consider if there's children involved. And some tough choices need to be made there. Maybe a family member needs to have those kids, or maybe you need to leave the situation for the sake of your children, or maybe that's the thing that makes you decide to get clean, if you really take a look at how it's affecting your children. And I'm just putting that out there because these kids can't advocate for themselves. Somebody has to, you know, and they are innocent victims in all of this. And we're not even going to get on the whole topic of children that are born addicted and stuff like that, because that's a whole nother topic. But I just wanted to throw it out there, you know. If you're dealing with any of this and there's children involved, you really need to look at that and do what needs to be done. And I don't really want to get into that, because that will make the video way longer than it's already been as well. So I think I touched on some of the other things with the money being a problem. You know, you're going to have a lot of financial problems if someone is in addiction or alcoholism, because, you know, it's really going to cut into your family finances and stuff like that. And I think the only other things I want to kind of wrap this up a little bit, because this video has already gotten super, super long, is that I do want to mention that addiction and mental health go hand in hand. it has been proven, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but there's a very high percentage of people that are in addiction that also suffer from a mental illness. There's a group called MICA that deals with that, mental health and addiction together. But like I said, a lot of people in addiction do also suffer from a mental illness of some sort. I don't think anybody out there ever chooses to become an alcoholic or an addict. A lot of times it's a coping mechanism to deal with whatever the mental health issue is, and sometimes people aren't aware that it's a mental health issue, but this is like a coping thing with them. So if this person gets into treatment for their addiction, another piece of that is they may have to seek treatment for their mental health as well. And I just want to throw that out there so that you're aware that sometimes the two go hand in hand, and more than likely they do. So when someone's addressing the one issue, sometimes the other issue needs to be addressed hand in hand. So I wanted to throw that out there. And I also heard somewhere that, I mean, I don't know how true it is. I tend to believe it based on my personal experience, that I read somewhere that once a person starts using a drug, a lot of times their mental and social development kind of halts at that point. So if you're 16 or if you're 24 or whatever age, that's pretty much where a lot of your mental growth kind of halts as far as maturing and things like that. So I don't know how true it is. Like I said, from what I've experienced, I tend to believe there's some truth to that. But to keep that in mind as well, that when you use a substance, it does alter your brain chemistry and your brain development. So when you're looking at a lot of the behaviors that an addict does, maybe that'll just put things into perspective as to like why they behave a certain way, or somewhat immature thinking for their age, because it has affected their brain. So and with that being said, like I said, I'm trying to wrap this up and still include the last few things that I wanted to talk about. I know it's very difficult when you're dealing with somebody in addiction. Society sees an addict as just that, only an addict, and we all know that it's still somebody's mother, father, son, daughter, cousin, brother, sister, aunt, husband, wife, girlfriend, whatever. Underneath that everyone else is seeing just the addiction and all the yucky stuff involved, it's still, that person is still a human being. And I used to be closed-minded to this when I was younger too, and guilty of what a lot of people are. Oh, it's just an addict. You know, there's no saving them. There's no value of life left. And really not seeing beyond that. But under that addiction, they're still a human being. They were still someone's baby. There's still people out there, hopefully, that love and care about this person. This person still has value. Some of these people are wonderful people. It's just that the addiction consumes them. So instead of being narrow-minded and seeing this person just as an addict, try to have a little compassion that this is still a very valuable person under that. And just because they're an addict doesn't mean all hope is lost. You still have to hang on to the fact that there's hope there, and there's a chance that this person will get the help they need and start becoming the person that they were at one time. Basically, don't give up on anybody. As long as they're still breathing, there's still hope. So at the end of the day, you have to excuse me, do what you need to for yourself, being the person that's dealing with this. But don't ever give up hope. If you really care about this person, don't give up. There's still always a chance. You can't make them change, but you can be there when they're ready. Like I mentioned, I was involved with someone for almost 15 years, and unfortunately they're still in their addiction. And I just made a personal choice that I could not continue to be in that relationship, because it's hard when somebody you care about and that you love, you're watching them destroy themselves and everyone around them on a daily basis, and when you care about somebody, you want to fix things and you want to smooth things over and things like that. And sometimes you can still love that person, but sometimes you have to do it from a distance because you need to allow them to hit that rock bottom. And as hard as it is to watch, most people aren't going to fix it until they do. I still have great love for this person, but I just can't be in the middle of that with them. Now, if this person ever genuinely decides that they have a problem, they want to get help, I'll be the first one there cheering and supporting them. But until they're ready, speaking for myself, I can't do it on a daily basis. I cannot watch somebody I care about destroy themselves right in front of my face every single day. When they're ready, I'll be the first one there, cheering them on. But I don't know, sometimes you just need to distance yourself and let people do what they're going to do and let them fall down, and hopefully if it ever gets bad enough that they decide it's an issue, they'll get the help they need, and just kind of be there to offer the support you can. And at the same time, acknowledge that you need to address it as well. It's not just the addict that needs to get help. If you've been dealing with this person long enough, you have issues that you're going to need to address to get better yourself. So I'm just trying to see if there was anything I really wanted to touch on that I might have left out of, and I really don't think that there is. Like I said, part of it's them getting help, and part of it's you also getting help and addressing the issues you need. So don't be afraid to seek help. Don't be afraid to set boundaries, which is not you not loving that person or anything like that, but at the end of the day, it's about self-preservation. It is a family disease. It does affect more than just the addict. So do what you got to for yourself as well. You getting help is just as important as them getting help. And I probably have left a lot of important things out. I just tried to jot down some notes so I would touch on the things that I really wanted to talk about. And this video is already super long, so I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, I'm not a professional at all. I'm just speaking from personal experience and what I've read and what I've picked up at meetings and things that I've dealt with. So if there's one aspect of this you might want me to get more information on so that I can share more, feel free to leave it in the comments. I will research. I will dig around and see what I can find out. If you're not comfortable putting it in the comments, feel free to shoot me an email or DM me on Instagram, and I'll see if I can dig and find some resources or information or anything like that. Or even if you want somebody to just kind of talk to, it's like, hey, you kind of dealt with this, what do you think about this? Or if you want to just vent, whatever, feel free to reach out to me. I'm not an expert, but I will lend an ear because I know I'm not in the middle of that on a day-to-day basis, but I was at one point, so I know what it's like to be overwhelmed and just not know where to draw straws from to put your thoughts together or whatever. So if you are in addiction and you've watched this video up until now, I hope that one day you decide that you're ready to turn your life around. And if you are in recovery, I commend you, and I'm very proud of those that are doing what they need to get their life back on track. And if you're close to someone who is in addiction, I just want to let you know that you're not alone, and it's not your fault, and you can't force people to change, but you can get the help you need to deal with what you're going through. And if your person gets help, make sure you get the help you need for yourself as well. So with that being said, God bless everyone that is dealing with this issue, whatever little role you're playing in all of this. And I know I've probably offended some people maybe, or it's been difficult for some people to hear, and I hope some people have stayed to the end. But take care of yourself and just maintain hope. And you know, helps out there if you need it, and if you have a hard time finding what you're looking for. If you reach out to me, I'll do the best I can to offer some suggestions or resources. So God bless, take care, and until next time, bye bye guys.